Learn English through the story of Princess Diana. Welcome to Giga English, where you can improve your English in a fun way by listening to interesting stories. Today, we bring you the heartbreaking and beautiful story of Princess Diana, who was loved by millions but felt alone inside the palace walls. Listen carefully. Read along with the captions. Pause and repeat, if needed. Before we start the story, please write your country name in the comments so we know where you are from. Are you ready? Let's get started. Chapter 1. The Little Girl at Park House. The rain tapped gently on the windows of Park House that summer night. On July 1st, 1961, Diana Frances Spencer was born into British nobility. She was the third daughter of John and Frances Spencer, an old noble family. The house was big and quiet, standing near the royal Sandringham estate. Though her family had titles, their home was filled with more silence than joy. Diana's father worked hard and followed royal traditions with pride. Her mother, Frances, was young, lively, and longed for a different life. They had 4 children, but Frances always hoped for a boy to carry the name. When Diana was born, some in the family wished she had been a boy. Still, little Diana grew with soft eyes, golden hair, and a gentle soul. She loved animals, dolls, and dancing in the garden under the sun. But behind the beauty of the house, her world was falling apart. Her parents often fought, their voices loud and full of pain. Diana would hide in corners, covering her ears with small hands. One day, her mother packed her bags and walked out the door. Diana was just a child when her parents divorced in a bitter battle. She and her siblings stayed with their father, though they missed their mother. Diana's heart carried the quiet sadness of a little girl abandoned. She began to understand that love could hurt and leave scars. But still, she dreamed of a love that would stay and never leave. At school, Diana was shy and soft-spoken, often hiding in the back. She wasn't the top student, but she loved music, ballet, and helping others. Teachers said she was sweet and caring, always looking after sad classmates. She hated being the center of attention, yet people were drawn to her. There was something about her eyes, kind, searching, a little lost. When her father became Earl Spencer, she became Lady Diana. They moved to Althorpe, a grand estate with long halls and heavy portraits. But even among the wealth, Diana still felt like a girl without a home. She longed for warmth, laughter, and someone to truly see her. Sometimes she would write stories and dream about a different life. She imagined being a ballerina or maybe a teacher for young children. Her heart was soft, full of empathy, and often broken for others. At boarding school, she wasn't the best at books, but she shone with kindness. Friends said she was the one who would give her coat to someone cold. Even at 15, Diana had a way of making people feel loved. Her childhood was not a fairy tale, but it shaped her quiet strength. Every tear she cried became a piece of the woman she would become. The world had not yet noticed her, but fate was already watching. She was still just a girl in the shadows of Park House, but one day, the girl no one truly saw would be seen by millions. Chapter 2. The Fairy Tale Begins. Diana was 19 when her world began to quietly change. She was living in a small London flat with 3 close friends. She worked at a kindergarten, caring for small children with gentle hands. Life was simple, and she was happy in her own quiet way. Then one day, Prince Charles came back into her life. They had met before, years ago, when she was still a girl. Now he was the heir to the British throne, and she was a lady. He noticed her soft smile and how she blushed when she spoke. Diana, with her shyness and warmth, was different from the rest. Charles began to call, invite her to events, and take her on walks. The media caught a glimpse of them, and the fire was lit. Paparazzi followed her everywhere, hiding in bushes, snapping photos non-stop. Suddenly, the quiet girl was the most watched woman in Britain. Then came the day that changed her life forever. In February 1981, the palace announced their engagement. Diana was just 20 years old and wore a blue suit that day. Charles said, "Whatever love means," when asked if they were in love. But Diana smiled, believing in the dream she had carried since childhood. The nation cheered, and the press crowned her the future queen. She was young, innocent, and full of hope, and the world adored her. On July 29, 1981, the world stopped to watch a royal wedding. 1,000 guests filled St. Paul's Cathedral in golden silence. Over 750 million people watched the wedding on TV around the world. Diana arrived in a glass coach, wearing a gown of silk and lace. Her long train floated behind her like a dream from a storybook. She walked down the aisle to meet a prince and a new life. The crowds outside shouted her name and waved British flags with joy. When they kissed on the palace balcony, the world sighed in delight. The fairy tale was complete, or so everyone thought. Diana was now the Princess of Wales, beloved by the people. She smiled for the cameras, bowed to the crowds, and wore her crown. Behind the palace walls, though, life was not what she expected. Charles remained distant, polite, but cold, like a stranger in a suit. He often spoke of duty, not love, and spent time away from her. Diana, now a princess, began to feel more alone than ever before. She was no longer just Lady Diana. She had become a symbol. But behind every wave and every smile was a lonely young woman. The girl who once dreamed of love was now trapped in a golden cage. And deep inside, she was beginning to wonder who she really was. The fairy tale had begun, but not the one she had imagined. Chapter 3: The Lonely Palace. The palace looked like a dream from the outside, golden, grand, and still. But inside those thick walls, Diana felt more like a prisoner than a queen. She woke each day to cold halls, stiff rules, and a distant husband. Charles grew colder, hiding behind tradition, silence, and long royal duties. He spent more time away, and she wondered where his heart truly was. She cried alone, her pain echoing through rooms filled with silence. The world still saw her as the smiling princess in pretty dresses. She waved at crowds, posed for photos, and kept wearing the mask. But behind closed doors, her heart broke a little more each day. The fairy tale had turned into a story of loneliness and doubt. Then joy finally came to her in the form of tiny hands. In 1982, Diana gave birth to her first son, Prince William. She held him close, crying tears of love and hope into his hair. 2 years later, baby Harry was born, laughing and full of light. With her sons, she found the love she had searched for all her life. She took them to parks, read them stories, and gave them her world. Diana was a different kind of royal mother, warm, open, and present. She wanted them to know kindness, not just duty or royal rules. But even the joy of motherhood could not fix a broken marriage. Charles's eyes were still elsewhere, far from Diana's heart. He often spoke with Camilla, the woman he could never forget. Diana found letters, heard whispers, and saw the truth in his eyes. Her heart shattered, not just from betrayal, but from being unseen. She tried to be enough, to be perfect, beautiful, and beloved. But it was never enough to win the heart already given away. The pressure crushed her, and her smile began to fade. Behind her charm and beauty, she battled storms no one saw. She struggled with sadness, fear, and the weight of being watched. Yet even in pain, she grew stronger, piece by piece, day by day. She started speaking out in soft but powerful ways. She visited hospitals, hugged sick children, and touched those others feared. She held hands with AIDS patients when others stepped back in fear. The world began to see her not just as a princess, but as a light. Her voice, once hidden in the shadows, began to rise like a song. She showed the world that love is louder than silence and pain. Though the palace still tried to control her, she had changed. She was no longer the shy girl who said yes to everything. She started to say no, to speak her truth, and to step forward. And with every small step, she reclaimed a little piece of herself. She wasn't just the Princess of Wales. She was Diana, and she mattered. But the war between heart and crown was far from over. The cracks in the fairy tale had become too wide to hide. Still, she held her head high, even as everything began to fall apart. Because now, she was fighting for more than love. She was fighting for herself, and the world was finally listening. Chapter 4. Breaking Free. The palace tried to keep her quiet, but Diana was tired of silence. She had lived for too long with secrets, sorrow, and fake smiles. In 1995, she sat down for an interview that shook the nation. Her voice was calm, but her words were bold and true. "There were 3 of us in this marriage," she said with quiet pain. The world froze, listening to the truth they had long suspected. Diana was no longer afraid to speak, even if it broke tradition. She talked about her sadness, her hurt, and feeling unwanted. People saw her not as a princess, but as a woman, real and brave. The crown may not have loved her, but the people did. After years of heartache, the final break finally came. In 1996, Diana and Charles officially ended their marriage. The news spread fast, and the world gasped at the end of the fairy tale. She lost her royal title, but she gained something greater: freedom. For the first time in years, Diana could choose her own path. She moved into a new home and began a new life with grace. No longer bound by royal rules, she followed her own heart. She wore what she wanted, spoke her truth, and walked with pride. Most of all, she poured her soul into helping those in pain. Diana became a voice for the weak, the sick, and the forgotten. She walked through landmine fields, holding hands with the wounded. She visited AIDS patients, orphanages, and poor villages with love. She hugged, listened, and cared when the world looked away. Her touch healed more than illness. It gave people dignity. The cameras still followed her, but now her mission was clear. She wasn't just doing royal duties, she was changing lives. Every step she took was for someone who had no voice. Every word she spoke brought light to the dark corners of the world. People called her the People's Princess, not for her crown, but her heart. And Diana finally began to feel whole again. She danced again, laughed with friends, and found moments of joy. Her eyes no longer held just sadness. They held strength. She traveled, she learned, and she loved without asking permission. Though she had lost a prince, she had found her true self, and in her freedom, the world saw her shine like never before. She was no longer the girl waiting for love to save her. She had become a woman who saved others with her love instead. She showed us that grace can rise from heartbreak and ruin, that kindness is stronger than any crown or title, and that sometimes breaking free is the first step to becoming whole. Chapter 5. The Final Goodbye. After the storm, Diana's heart slowly began to open again. She met Dodi Fayed, a man who made her laugh and feel alive. They traveled together, laughed on boats, and walked on sunny shores. For the first time in years, Diana felt seen, not for fame, but for herself. The world watched, curious and hungry for every moment of her life. The paparazzi never stopped chasing her, like shadows in the dark. They waited outside the doors, flashed cameras in her face, and followed her car. Diana, though used to the spotlight, longed for one day of peace. But peace would not come the way she hoped it would. On August 31st, 1997, the night took a cruel and sudden turn. In Paris, Diana and Dodi left their hotel, trying to escape the press. They got into a black Mercedes, speeding into a tunnel at night. The paparazzi followed on motorbikes, flashing cameras into the dark. And then, silence, sirens, and shattered glass beneath city lights. The car had crashed, and the world would never be the same. Dodi died at the scene, and Diana was pulled from the wreck. She fought for her life with the last of her strength and breath. But in a Paris hospital, as the sun began to rise, Diana passed away. The girl who once dreamed of love was gone at just 36, and the world, still half asleep, woke to a heartbreak it could not believe. People cried in the streets, lit candles, and laid flowers by the thousands. Children, mothers, strangers, all wept for the princess they never met. She had touched them, not with power, but with compassion and grace. The Queen of Hearts was gone, and the world stood still in sorrow. Even those who had never known her felt like they had lost a friend. Her sons, William and Harry, walked behind her coffin in silence. Two young boys, carrying the weight of goodbye too early in life. The world watched, holding its breath, as the church bells rang slowly. Inside the cathedral, a single white envelope lay on her casket. It read one word, written in a child's hand: Mummy. Elton John sang a farewell, changing his song for her soul. Candle in the Wind became the voice of millions mourning her. But even in death, Diana's light refused to fade. Her work lived on, in charities, in hearts, in whispered stories. Her love echoed in every life she had touched with her kindness. She was the girl from Park House, who became the people's princess. And though she's gone, her story will never, ever fade. And that was the story of Princess Diana. We hope you enjoyed this video and learned some English along the way. Now it's your turn to practice English writing by answering this question. What part of Diana's life inspired you the most, and why? Write your answer in the comments below. Don't worry about grammar, just try your best and keep learning. We'd love to read your thoughts and help you grow your English skills. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more English stories. See you in the next video.